hit like and subscribe. You're watching the Marc Lamont Hill official YouTube channel.
Peace, family. It's your brother, Marc Lamont Hill. Welcome to Night School every night here on the Marc Lamont Hill official YouTube channel. I hold Night School where I break down the most complicated subjects, the most urgent conversations, the most controversial debates going on in the world today. And tonight is no different. Shout out to everybody who is watching from YouTube. And of course, if you're over there on Twitter watching, that's cool too. We love to have you in the family. But of course, it's better if you come over to YouTube for all the reasons. While we get started, I want to let every Night School classmate here know that the community is growing, and it's growing because of your support. So make sure that you share this video with a friend, share it with your group chat, your social media community, wherever. Just make sure we want to get as many people as possible into tonight's classroom. Now, you don't need to be a subscriber in order to leave a comment, but be good, y'all. Like I always say, this is a safe and civil community. So disagree all you want, get frustrated, get mad, talk your ish, but be respectful, be civil, be decent. No hate speech. We got chat moderators in the room, and you're gonna get a warning in the comments. A second offense, you're gonna get muted, and that means you can't comment anymore. And of course, if you get a third strike, and I hope you don't get a third strike, you will get banned from the channel. But that's all the housekeeping stuff. Let's get to the actual substance today, because there's a lot of stuff going on in the world, across pop culture, politics, all this stuff. And I want to make sure that everybody here is in conversation with everybody around the world. So I'm gonna put y'all in conversation. So hit your name, your location, your city, your state, your country. Let us know where you're writing in from, and we will get it going. Let's start though with some politics. We're gonna get to Drake. We're gonna get to Trump's racism. We're gonna get to a whole bunch of stuff. Before we get there, I want to talk about these election interference charges against Donald Trump. As you know, Donald Trump has faced more lawsuits than more lawsuits than I would argue just about anybody I've ever seen who's running for major public office. I'm not just talking about as president. I'm talking about in any kind of context. Donald Trump is really wrestling with the law, the criminal legal system. And look, I don't even believe in all that, and it's still hard not to root for Donald Trump getting locked up, man, because he's such a piece of human garbage. But you know, we're not going to do that. Instead, we're going to talk about what's going on today. Special counsel Jack Smith requested that all charges against Donald Trump be dropped over his efforts to overturn the 2020 presidential election. Trump, who was the first person to be convicted of a felony and win the White House, he seems to be floating above the law right now. Normally in the United States, if you're convicted of a felony, in a lot of places, particularly in the South, you can't even vote. It's hard to get a job. It's hard to get public housing. It's hard to get loans. It's hard to become a well-situated member of society. Donald Trump not only got all of that, the man won the presidency. It's a different set of rules for Donald Trump. That's all I can say. Anyway, the latest move by Smith was expected to happen as he winds down the other federal case against Trump, in which he absolutely stole classified documents. Now, in his filing, Smith wrote, quote, "While prosecutors' view of Trump's alleged crimes has not changed, the circumstances surrounding the trial have." Trump said that Trump's win set at odds two fundamental and compelling national interests: the constitutional requirement that the president not only be unduly encumbered, and a commitment to the rule of law. Smith added, "This outcome is not based on the merits or strengths of the case against the defendant." How can I put this differently? Because I want to break this down for you. Basically, what Smith is arguing is, I ain't saying Trump did or didn't do it. I'm not asking y'all to drop these charges because he's innocent or even legally not guilty. I'm not saying he's factually innocent or legally not guilty. What I'm saying is that he's the president now. And if you're the president, you can't have a president that's facing charges. You can't have a president who is unduly encumbered. Now, the other issue, as he points out fairly, I think quite reasonably, is the president also isn't charged, empowered, expected to ensure the rule of law. So the president has to make sure that we're a country of laws, and the president can't be hampered by the law or by criminal charges. Now, that's why typically in American history, we have an elected presidents who have felony convictions and who are standing trial. So it gets tricky. Now, the US Justice Department has a long-standing policy that says that a sitting president, not a former president, not a president-elect, but that a sitting president cannot be prosecuted. This is where it gets tricky. Again, Donald Trump, like Netanyahu over in Israel, was like, look, as long as I'm sitting in this office, I ain't going to jail. I hear you. And the Justice Department doesn't like to prosecute presidents because they don't want the mess. In theory, you prosecute him afterward, after his term ends. But in this case, Donald Trump is convicted during the election season. The American public didn't seem to care. And let me be clear, I don't think that having a felony conviction should necessarily disqualify you from running for office. I hate the discourse of Trump is a convicted felon. That language doesn't make me feel bad for Trump, but it reminds me of the danger that labels like convicted felon and inmate and ex-con have for the broader public, for people who aren't Donald Trump, and who don't have lots of money, who don't have power, and who aren't going to be president. I don't want to use a stigmatizing language. In the abolitionist tradition, we recognize the weight and the harm that those labels cause, not to mention the fact that lots of people have those labels and don't deserve them. Anyway, all that said, Donald Trump is a piece of human garbage, so I ain't that worried about what it means for him in particular. I just worry about the long-term consequences. Donald Trump ain't going to jail. Donald Trump isn't going to spend a day in prison. Donald Trump is not only the kind of recipient of extraordinary power and privilege and access, but he's also getting some damn good legal representation right now. Jack Smith is saying, drop the charges because you don't want a president who's caught up in this mess. Now, I think a good counter argument might be, let's suspend these charges. Let's suspend prosecution. Let's wait until 4 years from now when we know Donald Trump won't be president anymore. Remember, Donald Trump can only run one term, can only have one term as president. So to that extent, this doesn't feel like something that needs to be dropped. It feels like something that can be prolonged, if that's your game. I'm not rooting for Donald Trump to go to prison or not. I don't really care about that. But I would imagine the state has a compelling counter argument to this. But it's interesting to watch Donald Trump navigate this. It's just a reminder that for Donald Trump, becoming president again was partly about power, partly about privilege, partly about money, but it was also about staying in prison. Anyway, that is an interesting story to me, and I hope it's interesting to you. Leave your comments. Let me know what you think. How is this thing going to play out? How is this thing going to end for Donald Trump and for the prosecutor? I think in both cases, it's quite tricky. But I want to move to yet another story. This one is interesting, but not for the reason that you might think it's interesting to me. In other words, I'm not a liberal complaining about representation. Anyway, let's get to the story, and I'll tell you all about it. This image, by the way, as you can see, is courtesy of the New York Times. I jacked their page for a second because I wanted y'all to see Trump's cabinet. On Friday, Donald Trump announced his first Black nominee to be part of his presidential cabinet for his new term. The Donald picked Scott Turner. Y'all might know Scott Turner. He is a former Texas lawmaker, former NFL player. Well, he was selected by Donald Trump to lead HUD, the Department of Housing and Urban Development. Now, that was a position, if you didn't know, that was held in the last administration by Dr. Ben Carson. See a pattern here? Maybe when Trump said black jobs, this is what he was talking about, the Secretary of HUD. Anyway, Trump is trying to round out his cabinet, as you can see. And look around. Look at all these fools in his cabinet. Just look at them. Look at them. Mehmet Oz, Medicare and Medicaid. EPA, Lee Zeldin. The UN, at least Stefanik. Robert F. Kennedy for Health and Human Services. I mean, come on. These are insane choices. And honestly, Scott Turner is one of the less crazy choices, to be honest. And I want to be clear here. I don't give a damn if Donald Trump picks 10 black people or no black people. The goal of politics for me is to get our needs met. The goal of advocacy and representation is to represent our interests, not our skin color. So I don't care if Donald Trump had all black people or no black people. The fact that he doesn't choose black people is just a reminder that, you know, some of you Negroes who voted for Donald Trump believing that he had some deep investment in black people and that he would offer a representation of black people as evidence of that. Y'all were simply wrong-headed in every way imaginable. But I ain't mad at you for that. If Donald Trump advanced our interests with all white people in office, I wouldn't like it, but I'd accept it. I'd rather have white people who advance my interest than black people who undermine them. But Donald Trump ain't doing either. I mean, Donald Trump literally, I'm not even exaggerating here. Look at this image. Donald Trump literally has more people named Doug in his cabinet. There's Doug Burgum. There's Doug Collins. He literally has more people named Doug than he does black people. 2 Dougs, 1 Negro. Just saying. So when you look at Donald Trump's cabinet, when you examine his plan, there's no doubt that Negroes ain't part of it. And a lot of people are upset about that. And I refuse to echo the bourgeois liberals, Democrats who are demanding more representation. What do you think he's going to do? Would you like 5 Ben Carsons? Like what do you want? He's not putting Huey Newton in there, you know, or rather Fred Hampton Jr. maybe, right? Like you're not getting a black radical, even if you get a black person in there, you're going to get more of the same. So I don't need 5 more Scott Turners. I don't need 10 more Ben Carsons. That's not what I want. I want a different administration. I want different leadership. Because if we go the Biden approach and have lots of representation of black people, which again, I respect from his political perspective, which is to say, you know, black people brought me here. They made me president. I owe political debt to black people, and black people want this. So I'm gonna give it to them. And these people represent my interests. You know, I'm good with that. I just don't agree that these neoliberal African-American politicians represent my interests. But if I thought they did, then I'd be good with it. You know, at the end of the day, representation and identity politics is not going to save us. It's advancing an actual radical, material, concrete politics that speaks to our needs and our interests. So, but it's still funny that Donald Trump waited to the last minute to get a Negro. If you think he ain't doing that to also play to his base, y'all crazy. Donald Trump knows what it means to not pick Negroes. He knows that every minute that Al Sharpton or Jesse Jackson or whomever is challenging Donald Trump for his failure to pick black people, he knows that there's a group of white people and a group of right wingers and a group of extremists and a group of racists who are excited and even emboldened by that fight, by that struggle. So just keep that in mind that Donald Trump has a plan here. But it's not just about it's not just about him choosing a Negro. You know, that's cool and everything, but there's bigger fish to fry than just that. Donald Trump is rounding out his cabinet not just with a black person, but with some extreme choices. One of his latest picks is even drawing concern from the MAGA loyalists. That's right. Even MAGA people are like, yo, dude might be too much sauce. His name is Sebastian Gorka, and he's been named the Senior Director of Counterterrorism. Getting an extremist to oversee the Office of Counterterrorism scares me a little bit. He'll be part of the National Security Council, and he doesn't need Senate confirmation. So this is basically a done deal. Gorka is the son of Hungarian parents who fled to the UK after a failed uprising against the Soviet Union. He later immigrated to the US and became a naturalized citizen in 2012. Gorka was part of the first Trump administration for about 4 months. Then after 4 months, he got the boot. So he did what any good Trump expat, so to speak, would do. He went to Fox News, where he became a part of the team there. He had a show on YouTube. And get this, dude was on YouTube and spread so much misinformation that he got banned from the platform. He was too crazy for YouTube. Now he's on Newsmax, which is like an extreme crazy version of Fox News. We'll see how long that lasts. Well, it won't last long because he's going to join the Trump team. In the past, he has endorsed, unequivocally, he has endorsed racial profiling. He has basically said, he's implied, he didn't literally say it, but if you listen to his words or read his statements, he's basically implied that the majority of Muslims in America are terrorists. He was a staunch supporter of Donald Trump's Muslim ban, you know, the one that seemed to get ignored by the Muslims in Michigan when they endorsed Trump. And he said that Muslim immigrants in America, quote, want to kill us. In 2017, there was this New York Times article, and in it, 2 U.S. officials who worked in counterterrorism called Gorka an Islamophobic huckster. So again, I was one of the people who very clearly and unequivocally said that life under Trump is going to be hell. Life under Biden hasn't been a dream. Life under Harris was going to be tough for lots of reasons, but I'm not going to romanticize what life under Trump is or was going to be. And for Muslims, for Black and brown folk, for South Asian folk, it's going to get awful. And I think it's important that you know that. You know, everyone kept saying, oh, we already know we're going to get with Trump. And that's true. I don't think there's going to be a ton of surprises with Trump. I don't think there's going to be a ton of surprises with Donald Trump. But the problem is, even without surprises, Donald Trump is tough. He's putting together a team that makes no bones about hating poor people, hating Black and brown people, hating democracy and equity and justice and all these things that they have now demonized and racialized and pretty soon probably criminalized. So please understand what we're into. Please understand what we're facing. Please understand what the worst case scenario is going to be here, because we're pretty much looking at it, y'all. Just my thoughts. All right, let's move to some international news. Let's move to some international news. We gotta have, before I jump to the next story, I just want to, reiterate, the importance, family, of drawing these connections between what's happening domestically and what's happening internationally, between what's happening in our economy and what's happening in our political process, between what's happening in the medical world and what's happening in the tech world. We got to draw these connections. It's a big part of the world that we're in. And it's a big part of our job as people who want to understand and unpack the world in the interest of advancing justice. All that said, we got a quick question coming in from Liban Ahmed, who said, "Good evening, Professor. I believed Christian nationalism will come to power in January 20th. What is your take?" My take, Liban, is that Christian nationalism has been in power for a long time. The first Trump administration was Christian nationalism. The Israel lobby is powered in many ways by Christian nationalists, evangelical Christians, et cetera, et cetera. When we look outside the political arena and we look at what's happening in media, when we look at what's happening in various cultural spaces, not just in the United States, but around the globe, please don't ever think that Christian nationalism is not significant, because it absolutely is. All right. Anyway, let's move on to a story that I'm very, very interested in talking about, very interested in covering for a variety of reasons. So let's get right to it. Today, the supreme leader of Iran, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, called for the death sentence to be issued to current Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and his accomplices. According to Khamenei, the death sentence should be issued to Netanyahu and company instead of arrest warrants. In response to the ICC arrest warrants for Netanyahu and his former defense minister, Yoav Gallant, the Ayatollah said they issued an arrest warrant. That's not enough. A death sentence must be issued for these criminal leaders. The ICC judges issued the warrants charging Netanyahu with war crimes and crimes against humanity, including using starvation as a weapon and, of course, deliberately targeting defenseless civilians, most of whom have been women and children. We know that Canada, Ireland, Italy, France, the Netherlands, Belgium, Austria, they've all said that they would comply with the ICC and that they would arrest Benjamin Netanyahu should he set foot in their country, as will most European countries, along with Arab nations. Now, Germany and the UK have been non-committal, let's just say. They didn't say they wouldn't do it, but they damn sure didn't say that they would. And of course, the US, the number one cheerleader for Israel, says that while they support ICC arrest warrants for Vladimir Putin, president of Russia, they reject them for Benjamin Netanyahu, the prime minister of Israel. So we have here a very interesting situation. Iran is calling for the death of Netanyahu, not the arrest of Netanyahu. Now, I have thoughts. First thought, I don't agree. I think Benjamin Netanyahu must be arrested, not killed. I believe that the International Criminal Court represents an opportunity, and the International Court of Justice, the ICJ, but certainly in this case, the ICC, which is about war crimes, I believe that the ICC represents an opportunity to impose order and justice in the globe in ways that don't just advance the interests of powerful Western nations, but also keep everybody in check. In other words, the ICC can't continue to be the ACC, the African Criminal Court. You can't just lock up a bunch of African leaders. You just can't go looking through Latin America for smoke. You got to be able to say, hey, Putin, we see you. Hey, Netanyahu, we see you. Hey, Biden, we see you. Now, international law and international courts are only as good as the global community's commitment to enforcing their rules. In other words, if y'all not going to lock Netanyahu up when he shows up to your country, then none of this shit matters. It's all just smoke and mirrors. It's all just a game. So it's important to hear the backing of the international community saying, hey, we're going to enforce this. Now, we know that just means Netanyahu ain't going nowhere except the United States. But, and maybe Germany, maybe the UK. But we need to have an enforceable and replicable model. And killing leaders who we disagree with, even those who we consider war criminals, is not a good model. I don't believe that it's ethical. I don't believe that the United States, nor Iran, nor Israel, nor the UK, nor Germany, whoever has the moral authority to go around executing leaders. I don't think that it sets a good precedent, and I don't think that it's healthy. And in the particular case of Israel, in addition to it just being flat out wrong to do, I think that it would only make Israel look like a victim and it'll make Netanyahu into a martyr, and it would give Israel license to buck international order and law even more so than it already has and already does. So I'm not convinced that that's the issue here. I don't think that it's ethically okay, and I don't think that it's strategically okay. Now, if you're bombing sites and someone happens to be there, that's different, right? If you're a combatant doing combatant stuff, that's one thing. But just to execute sitting leaders of countries, that's what the United States has done for a long time. The United States has been behind lots of executions. We love a good proxy war. We love a good execution. We love a good behind the scenes coup. But we can be better than that. We need to be better than that. And so I can't advocate that. Aren't Gallant and Bibi part of the military? Saying that Gallant and Bibi are part of the military, it's a good question, Bullet. Is not the same if you're not, for example, I mean, even in international law, I mean, if you are not in uniform, if you're not actively engaged in combat, I can't say, well, you're a part of the military, you're on reserve duty, so I can just execute you randomly, right? It doesn't fit international law, but again, I'm saying that I don't think that I think about like the Kantian categorical imperative here. I think about what it would mean for all interactions of the same sort, or all relationships, or all dynamics of the same sort, to be handled the same way. Like, what would it mean for nations to be able to issue death warrants against other people, the leaders of other nations? What does that look like? I think it's a bad idea. I think the best thing we could do, and again, if you're in a combatant space and combatant shit happens to you, I ain't mad at that. But I'm talking about countries issuing death warrants out for other nations. That's different. I just keep thinking, what if all relations were governed by these same principles? And I don't think that it will work out well. And honestly, my fear is not just about this case. It's about how many Latin American leaders, how many African leaders, how many Asian leaders are going to die if we follow this principle. Yeah, but I'd love to also, and also due process. I mean, I think Ozzy's dad is correct here. That's the name here. In due process, I think people should be accountable for. I didn't want Saddam Hussein to be executed. I didn't want Osama bin Laden to be executed. I want them to have trials. And Saddam had a trial, right? So, but I remember when people were saying, just go there and kill him. It's like, no, don't go there and kill him, right? You have an actual fair trial. Osama bin Laden, fair trial. I think that's okay. Anyway, that's just my thoughts. All right, let's have another conversation. Tell me, y'all want to talk about Drake. I want to talk about Drake. Can we talk about Drake? Can we talk about Drake? Not yet. Okay, one more story before we talk about Drake. One more quick story. An important story, by the way. A very, 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 very important story. Before we get to that story, some of you are just joining me, so jump in the chat. Let me know where you're calling in from, writing in from, watching from, and don't forget to hit all the buttons. Subscribe to the Marc Lamont Hill official YouTube channel. Hit the like button for this video. You can also share it on social media. Ask more people to join the Night School Classroom, and please head over to Instagram and give us a follow at Night School MLH. The link is posted in the description of this video, which will take you directly to the page. Now let's get to this Georgia story, because I think it's an important one. The state of Georgia has disbanded the committee charged with investigating the deaths of pregnant women. All 32 members of Georgia's Maternal Mortality Committee have been dismissed. It's in response to a ProPublica investigation in which they obtained internal reports detailing 2 deaths. According to the committee, the deaths were preventable, and women died without access to care, restricted by a state abortion ban. Georgia state health officials said, quote, confidential information provided to the Maternal Mortality Review Committee was inappropriately shared with outside individuals. Now, since they were unable to identify the individual who disclosed the information, officials have disbanded the whole committee, and they're going to start over with a new application process. The 32 members come from different medical backgrounds and advocacy groups. It's a volunteer position. They get a small honorarium, but it's really about people wanting to volunteer for this process. The committee's most recent report found that of 113 pregnancy-related deaths over a 2-year period, 101 of them had at least some chance of being prevented. Its recommendations helped improve hospital care, response to labor and delivery emergencies, as well as increased access to psychiatric treatment. Now, this is sad that the board is being disbanded, because we need the board. I understand leaks of information. I understand that we need to provide, whether it's HIPAA, whether it's just good old fashioned confidentiality, or just decency. It's important for information to be protected, and maybe this committee did need to be disbanded if they don't know where the leak is. But at the end of the day, the most important thing is that women's health and the pregnant people in the world the pregnant people in the world are protected and safe. We live in a country where women die far too much at birth. For a nation this developed, for a nation with this many resources, this kind of medical establishment, this kind of technological infrastructure, it is absurd that so many people continue to die from preventable illnesses and preventable occurrences. Again, the committee's report said that out of 113 pregnancy-related deaths over a 2-year period, 101 of them had at least some chance of being prevented. No, things happen. But only 12 of the cases were like absolutely unavoidable. The other 112, 12 of the other 101, excuse me, of the other 101, there was a chance something could have been done. I don't know if half of them could have been fixed, 10%, whatever. The point is, we can have fewer people die giving birth than we have right now. And we have to do everything we can to advocate for that. And I don't want to get so caught up in the legal minutia and the battles over details that we lose sight of the big picture, which is that women are dying every single day. And for Black women in particular in this country, the chance of dying giving birth to a baby is incomparably high in relation to the other developed nations, other first world nations, etc. So we got to stay on top of that. All right, y'all. Now, it's time to talk about everybody's favorite rapper or favorite target, favorite punchline, favorite pop star, favorite hero. Drake means something to everybody. Some of it is incredibly good, some of it is incredibly bad. But at the end of the day, Drake is a significant figure in the minds of many people. And today, Drake did some things that I didn't expect today, but don't completely shock me about Drake. And here's what Drake did, in case you don't know. And he's getting dragged across the coals right now on social media. So if you don't know, you will know quite soon. Drake is suing Universal Music Group. He has initiated legal action against them and Spotify over allegations that the two companies have conspired to artificially heighten the reach and the popularity, the virality even of Kendrick Lamar's hit song, Not Like Us. So today, in Manhattan court, Drake's LLC, which is called Frozen Moments, accused the Universal Music Group of launching an illegal, quote, scheme that involved bots, payola, and other methods to pump up Not Like Us. Now, if you don't know Not Like Us, you're probably in the wrong place right now. But Not Like Us, of course, was the kind of culminating battle rap in the feud between Kendrick Lamar and Drake. They went back and forth with a lot of hits, a lot of songs, a lot of battle rap, starting with Like That, Metro Boomin and Future, and then they went back and forth. Kendrick definitely got the best of them, but Not Like Us was a monster. Not Like Us is one of the biggest songs of the year, and probably, in my estimation, the biggest battle rap in the history of the genre, in the history of rap music. Shit, I just don't know of anybody who's had a bigger battle rap than that. But anyway, Not Like Us just absolutely dominated the charts. And Drake is saying, yeah, it's not just because the song is hot. In fact, it's not because the song is hot. It's because, according to the lawsuit, and I quote, UMG launched a campaign to manipulate and saturate the streaming services and the airways. In other words, they said people didn't like the song just because they liked it. They liked it because Spotify and UMG made them like it. He said that UMG, I'm not laughing at it. I mean, I read the lawsuit, 17-page lawsuit. I read it. It's interesting. I need to read it again tonight more carefully, but I read the lawsuits. It was very easy, very quick, easy read. Drake's attorneys accused the Universal Music Group of engaging in RICO. Now, I know when you hear RICO, a lot of times you think of, maybe because of the Young Thug trial, you think of something different. But for a long time, people thought of like mobs, mafia, organized crime units, and that's effectively what RICO is. It's a criminal statute designed against organized crime, but organized crime doesn't have to be the mafia. I've seen it, police departments have gotten charged with the RICO, et cetera, et cetera. But they also said that there are deceptive business practices that are happening and false advertising that are happening under New York state law. Those are crimes as well. Now, this is not where people thought things would go. Monday was not a lawsuit per se, according to what I'm hearing. This is what you call a pre-action petition. It's a procedure under New York law that says, look, we need to get some info before we file this lawsuit. And everybody might not get targeted, but it seems that Spotify is less the victim here than UMG. In other words, Spotify's in the mix; they're implicated, but it seems like this is about Universal Music Group, and it kind of makes sense because Drake is part of Universal Music Group. So let's say it differently. Drake is saying that he's under Universal Music Group, as is ultimately Kendrick, and he's saying, look, my own company undermined me. They literally made a campaign to make the song that's tearing me down look more successful than it is. People, and I know it's funny, but people are literally typing Certified Lover Boy, which was Drake's album, and instead they're getting Not Like Us. Now you could argue, Certified Lover Boy, Certified Pedophile. Like maybe they think it's part of the algorithm, but Drake's lawsuit is basically saying that people who were asking for unrelated material were still getting Not Like Us, that they allowed people to violate copyright law just to get the song up on their timelines and on their pages, on their YouTube channels and all that stuff. Basically, they artificially made the song a hit at my detriment. And you might say, well, they can do whatever they want. Well, yes, you can. And no, you can't. You can't pay radio stations to play music. Payola is a big scandal. It's been a big scandal in New York for a long time. In fact, before he turned into a weirdo, what was his name? Elliot Spitzer was all about fighting payola in New York. But there's been big controversy about payola, and especially in New York City. In fact, Universal Music Group, I believe, had a lawsuit or a big payout, something in like 2006. So there is a history of this happening. So Drake is saying, y'all are breaking the law to make me look bad. Y'all are undermining your fiduciary responsibility to me as your client, or as your artist rather, to do this to me, right? Like, this is bad. And of course, Drake feels like this is all what do you call it? Not defamatory. Oh, defamatory. Yes, he's saying that that this is a defamation of his character because the whole world thinks that Drake is a pedophile. Now, that's what Drake's arguing. That's what his camp is arguing. They've told me that themselves. And I get it. If you're Drake and you're not a pedophile, and this lyrics got everybody calling you that could be problematic, right? In fact, in the lawsuit, it says, quote, online sources reported that when users asked Siri to play the album Certified Lover Boy by Drake, Siri is Apple Music now, Siri instead played Not Like Us, which contains the lyrics Certified Pedophile, an allegation against Drake. So again, the idea here is that the music industry and the tech companies, all the shit is conspiring to make Drake look bad. Now, seems far-fetched. It seems odd, right? Like, why would UMG go through all this trouble, take penitentiary chances, take class action chances, take billion-dollar chances just to hurt Drake when he's one of the biggest artists? Drake says, or his team says, well, it's part of an internal battle within UMG, Universal Music Group. And there are parts of Universal that are rooting for one squad versus another, and they represent their own interests, and they're going to destroy anybody, even internally, in order for their division to do well, for their division to be good. So like Interscope, it's got its own thing going on, which is going to be different than what's happening over at OVO or whatever. So this is the context. Now, Drake Scene also said, look, we didn't want to go to the courts. We went to the UMG first, and they won't listen to us. They won't talk to us. They're ignoring us. UMG says it's not true. They also deny everything. Universal Music Group basically said, this shit sounds crazy, and we ain't do it, and we're not going to do anything about it because there's nothing we can do about it, right? That we wouldn't do such unethical and irrational behavior. I'll tell you this. I don't put anything past a music label, or record label, whatever. I don't put anything past corporate execs. I don't put anything past capitalists. So could they be shitting on Drake on purpose? Yeah, absolutely. Could Drake be paranoid? Absolutely. The problem is a couple of thoughts. First of all, this is the least hip hop shit Drake has ever done. You were in a battle, you lost the battle, and now you're going to the courts. It looks like you're snitching. It looks like a Karen move. It looks like a sore loser move. I'm not saying that's what's happening, but that's how the public is reading it. If you were worried about recovering your image, Drake, after the battle, this ain't the way to do it. Because now it looks like insult to injury. It looks like not only did you lose the battle, but you are playing yourself. And that's harder to get over. Now, Drake is a big pop star. He's a hip hop legend, icon, whatever, but he's also a pop star. So, he's not going to lose his pop audience. He's not going to lose his big audience. And he might not even lose the hip hop audience, but I'll tell you, people are going to be talking shit for a minute. But more importantly, what does this do for his legacy? How does he want to be remembered in hip hop? What's the stamp he wants to leave on the culture? This ain't it, bro. This is not it. Now, if you're Drake, you might say, well, look, they shitted on me. They cost me X number of dollars, and I can't afford to take that L. The fans will come and go, but I need my bread. Drake's will be a billionaire at some point, sooner than later. I don't think he actually needs the bread. And I think this is a corny. I just don't see Jay-Z doing this. I'm sorry. I don't see Jay-Z doing this. And that's kind of my measure of what it means to be cool and what it means to be a hip-hop legend, hip-hop boss. Nas wouldn't do this. My standard. Neither my goats would do that. Black Thought wouldn't do that. I don't think Kendrick would do that. I don't think Andre would do that. I don't think Jadakiss would do that. I don't think Rakim would do that. I'm just saying, whoever, I don't think Ice Cube would do, all I'm saying is that he's doing some shit that seems completely outside the reach and grammar of hip hop. Now, you might argue that's why Drake is winning, because he knows how to do shit different. He's doing this like business and not like some street shit. Maybe. I don't know the merits of the case. I can't speak to the merits of the case. What I know for certain is that this is a terrible look, and that Drake is going to be clowned for a very, very, very long time for this choice. So we'll see what happens, but it just looks like he lost the battle and he called the cops. I know it's not what happened, but that's damn sure how it looks. All right, y'all. That's it for tonight. We got one more interesting super chat here that says 12 prisoners at Red Onion Prison in Virginia self-immolated due to conditions of the prison. Legacy is ignoring it. Can you look it up live? I think you might mean look it up live. Anyway, either way, yes, I got you, but I'd love to do that story. It's a sad story. It's a crazy story. It's a wild story, but I'm happy to cover it. I'm happy to talk about it. Yeah, that's what we do here. We cover it, we deep dive, we do the work. Somebody said he proves he not like us. That is absolutely right. Some wild stuff happening out in this world. Anyway, y'all, thanks for watching Night School. I'm here every single night, Monday to Friday, 9 p.m. Eastern or 10 p.m. Eastern, depending on the night. Check me out every chance you get. But in the meantime, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Of course, if you're so inclined, hit the join button, become a monthly subscriber to the channel. That's how we develop and maintain the financial stability that we need in order to keep the channel going. So please consider joining the channel. Even a bronze membership is amazing. So please just consider it, family, if you can. In addition to that, if you can't make a monthly commitment, consider making a one-time commitment for the month. We consider it like your monthly tuition for night school. Night school, office hours, coffee and books, classroom and cell, all this stuff is powered by the community and grassroots investment from the community in the channel. So please consider Cash App, PayPal, Venmo, or Zelle, sending something over. If you send $1, we are grateful. If you send $1 million, you have no idea how much I need y'all to send $1 million right now. We would be so grateful. But anything in the middle is well appreciated, y'all. Think about dropping something on that Cash App. If not, PayPal or Venmo or Zelle works, but make sure you drop something in. Again, $1 is more, is not too little. $1 million is not too much, but we're asking everybody who's watching right now, if you can, to try dropping $10 in. If everybody watching right now on social media, on Instagram, on Twitter, on Facebook, whatever, If everybody watching right now would drop $10 into Cash App, we will meet our financial goals for the month, and we would be able to build and invest moving forward. So just consider it, family. It's something that we would love to be able to do. All right, family. Thank you for watching Night School. I will see you tomorrow. Peace.